People love to say, family would never do that to you. It's a comforting lie we repeat to survive the world. But the truth is simpler and darker. Only family knows exactly where to cut deepest. Only blood can twist the knife with a smile. My name is Marisa Vale. I'm 42 years old, and I work as a night shift clinical lab technologist at a hospital just outside Los Angeles. My status? A mother still trying to understand how my own brother became the villain in my daughter's life. I never saw myself telling a story like this, but silence feels like surrender, and I'm done surrendering. It began with trust. My daughter Lena has this softness to her, a kind of innocence that makes you both proud and terrified. When my brother came to her asking for help, she believed him instantly. He said he just needed a temporary loan, something to hold him over during a tight month. There was urgency in his voice, this breathless desperation he knew she'd fall for. And she did. She handed him $13,200 with a kind of faith you only give people you think would never hurt you. I didn't even know about the money until after. And when she told me, she was smiling because helping family made her feel good, made her feel useful, made her feel connected. I wanted to trust him too. I really did, but something in my gut felt off, a quiet tightening in my chest, the kind of instinct you only develop after surviving too many disappointments. He promised he'd pay her back in a week. He said he'd make her whole. He even told her she was saving his life. But a promise means nothing when it comes from someone who treats trust like a currency they never intend to repay. The week passed. Then the silence started. No calls, no messages, no explanation. The shift from urgency to avoidance was too sharp, too telling. And every hour that passed without a word felt like watching a shadow grow larger behind a door you don't want to open. Deep down, before I had proof, I already knew. My brother hadn't borrowed anything, he had taken it. And the truth was waiting, ugly, heavy, and ready to crush everything we thought family meant. The second week began like an itch under the skin, small, constant, impossible to ignore. Lena kept checking her phone like it was a lifeline, like maybe he'd respond if she just stared hard enough. I watched her go from hopeful to confused, then from confused to worried, and finally from worried to something that looked a lot like fear. Not fear of him, fear of the truth she was starting to choke on. I asked her to walk me through everything he said, every promise, every detail, every word he used to convince her, and the more she spoke, the colder the room felt. His tone, his timing, his story. None of it had structure, none of it had weight. It was smoke, a performance. A man who knew exactly what strings to pull and exactly how soft her heart was. That was the moment my guilt started growing like a tumor. I should have taught her not to trust so easily. I should have warned her about him sooner. I should have known better. But you never expect the worst from the people you grew up with? Not really. You tell yourself they're flawed, maybe irresponsible, maybe messy, but not dangerous, not cruel, not capable of stealing your child's savings like it was pocket change. When Lena finally caved and showed me the receipts, the transfers, the notes, my own breath caught. $13,200. Everything neatly sent. Everything clearly labeled. Everything she worked for. Gone. I tried calling him myself. I didn't expect much, and he delivered even less. Straight to voicemail. Blocked, ignored, deleted. People say silence can speak, but his screamed. It screamed guilt. It screamed intention. It screamed the kind of selfishness that only grows in someone who's been enabled by family their entire life. 3 days later, the truth found us in pieces. A friend of his posted a story, some half-drunk celebration, spilled drinks, table full of plates, expensive bottles, stupid grins plastered across their faces. And there he was, my brother, throwing money around like he printed it himself. The caption said everything he didn't. When the cash finally hits. That's when something inside me snapped. A slow, cold, surgical kind of rage. Not loud, not explosive, just pure clarity. Because it wasn't an emergency, it wasn't a crisis, it wasn't a short-term loan. He never intended to pay her back. He didn't even hesitate. He took her future, the money she saved for school, for breathing room, for safety, and he burned it on a weekend high like it meant nothing. I showed the video to Lena. She stared at it for a full minute, her face still, her hands trembling. Then she whispered, "He really did it, didn't he?" Not like a question, more like a eulogy. She wasn't crying, not yet. She was realizing that the man she once saw as a goofy, harmless uncle was actually someone capable of betraying her without an apology, without hesitation, without even a flicker of shame. That realization broke something in her, in a quiet, irreversible way. Later that night, I found her sitting on the kitchen floor, knees pulled to her chest, phone beside her like a dead thing. And she said something I'll never forget. "Mom, why does it feel worse that he's family?" I didn't have an answer, not a good one, because betrayal from strangers is sharp, quick, survivable. But betrayal from blood? That's slow, poisonous. It spreads. And the guilt hit next, my guilt, the kind that coils inside you like a threat. I should have seen the signs. I should have warned her about his patterns, his chaos, his manipulations. But I didn't. I protected her from everything except the one thing she needed protection from most, him. I told her we needed to confront him, not violently, not impulsively, but truthfully. He needed to see what he'd done. He needed to face her. He needed to own the wreckage he caused. Lena agreed, not because she wanted vengeance, but because she wanted closure. She wanted to hear him say he did it. She wanted her dignity back. What neither of us knew, what neither of us could have prepared for, was that confronting him wouldn't just expose the thief inside him, it would expose something darker, meaner, something with no love left in it at all. And that something had a hand behind it, ready, waiting, willing to strike. The day we confronted him felt wrong from the moment the sun came up. Not dramatic wrong, not thunder or omen or cinematic dread, just a heaviness in the air, a tension that settled into the corners of the room like dust. Lena barely spoke while we drove across the city. She just held her phone in her lap, thumb rubbing against the screen like she was trying to erase the whole week with friction alone. I kept glancing at her, watching the way her jaw tightened every time we got closer to his neighborhood. She wasn't scared. She was holding herself together with shaking hands, forcing calm over a storm she didn't ask for. And that somehow broke me more than anything he'd done. When we pulled up, his apartment complex looked the same as always. Sun-bleached walls, chipped paint, a courtyard filled with the echoes of people who lived too close together and cared too little about it. But something about it felt different now, smaller, meaner. He answered the door quicker than I expected. A flicker of surprise crossed his face when he saw us. Surprise followed by irritation, then something uglier. He leaned against the doorway like we were inconveniencing him, like our pain was a knock interrupting a nap. Lena stepped forward before I could speak. Her voice was steady, shaking at the edges, but strong where it counted. "Where's the money?" she asked. No greetings, no preamble, just truth. My brother blinked, slow and calculated, and shrugged. What money? That's when I knew he wasn't just avoiding responsibility. He was rewriting reality. Lena showed him the transfers. She showed him the dates. She showed him everything, and he smirked. Actually, smirked. "That wasn't a loan," he said. "You said you wanted to help me out." Her breath caught. "I never said that. You asked me. He cut her off with a scoff. You're twisting it. You always twist things. Lena isn't the kind of person who twists anything. She's honest to the point of softness, too gentle for men who weaponize guilt and chaos. But he knew that. He counted on it. He used it. The conversation spiraled quickly, like stepping into a room where gravity shifts and you can't tell up from down anymore. She told him he promised to pay it back. He said she imagined it. She said she had proof. He said she forged it. She said she trusted him. He said trust made her stupid. Every word he spoke dripped arrogance. This poisoned confidence that came from a lifetime of getting away with the worst parts of himself. And Lena, God, she still tried. She still tried to reach whatever sliver of humanity he might have had left. Just admit you took it, she whispered. Please, just say you did. He stepped closer, too close. The air changed. The room tightened. He towered over her, voice dropping to a low, venomous growl. You're not getting a dime from me. Those words hit harder than anything physical. They tore something out of her, this final thread of hope she'd been clinging to. I saw it snap in her eyes, saw her face fall, not in weakness but in recognition. Recognition of who he truly was. She straightened her spine, lifted her gaze, and said softly, I trusted you, and you stole from me. Something in his expression twisted. Shame or anger or fear, I still don't know. But he reacted the only way a coward ever does. He struck her. A sharp, violent slap. Sudden, loud, final. Her head jerked to the side. Her hand flew to her cheek. And time just stopped. Everything inside me broke. Every bone-deep instinct, every human restraint. But I froze. Not out of fear, out of shock. Because in that moment, I wasn't looking at my brother anymore. I was looking at a stranger wearing his face. Lena didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stepped back, slow and deliberate, exhaling like she'd been punched in the soul, not the skin. He didn't apologize. He didn't panic. He didn't show an ounce of remorse. He only said, You pushed me. Pushed him. As if her courage was an attack. As if her truth was violence. As if his hand had a mind of its own. I took Lena's arm gently, so gently, like she was made of shattered glass, and said, We're done here. And she nodded, still silent, still holding her cheek, still holding on to what little of herself he hadn't destroyed. As we walked away, I felt something closing behind us, something symbolic, something sharp. It wasn't a door, it was a severed bloodline, a family tie snapping clean in half. He stole $13,200. He stole her trust. He stole her sense of safety. But the slap? That was different. The slap didn't just reveal who he was, it revealed who he had been all along, and who we refused for years to see. The drive home felt like moving through fog, thick, shapeless, swallowing every thought before it fully formed. Lena sat beside me in the passenger seat, staring out the window, her fingers pressed lightly against the tender spot on her cheek. She wasn't crying, she wasn't speaking, she was somewhere else entirely, somewhere quiet and broken and unreachable. I kept glancing at her, wanting to say something, anything that might pull her back. But there are wounds that words can't touch, wounds that live deeper than physical pain. And the way she held her silence told me she was replaying it over and over, trying to understand how someone she loved could turn on her like a stranger in a dark alley. When we got home, she went straight to her room. She didn't slam the door. She didn't collapse into sobs. She just drifted inside like someone walking into a cold ocean, letting the water swallow her inch by inch. I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening for any sign of her voice. Nothing, just the house breathing around us, heavy and dim. Later that night, long after midnight, I found her sitting on the living room floor with the lights off, knees drawn up to her chest, eyes swollen but dry. When she saw me, she tried to smile. One of those tiny, trembling smiles people make when they're trying to protect you from their pain. I sat beside her. We didn't speak for a while. We just existed together in the aftermath. Eventually, she whispered, "I feel stupid." I shook my head instantly. "You trusted him, and he abused that trust. That makes him rotten, not you." She swallowed hard, staring at her hands. "But he's family." That word hung in the air like rot. Family. The shield we all hide behind. The excuse we all use. The rope that ties you to people who sometimes don't deserve you. I told her something I'd been too afraid to say for years. Family isn't the people you're born to. Family is the people who don't hurt you when you're vulnerable. That's when she cried, not loud, not messy, just this soft, broken sound that cracked something inside me. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling the tremor of every shattered expectation, every burned bridge, every piece of innocence he'd stolen. The next morning, the world felt different, sharper, colder. My phone lit up with messages from relatives who heard a version of what happened, his version, of course, twisted, sanitized, convenient. Some asked if we were overreacting. Some asked what Lena did to provoke it. Some asked why we made such a big deal over money. That was the moment the final truth settled in. We weren't just losing him. We were losing the parts of the family that protected him through silence, denial, and guilt. People think betrayal is a single event, a single wound. It's not. It's a ripple that moves outward, hitting everything in its path. I blocked his number. I blocked anyone who tried to guilt us into forgiveness. I blocked the people who said he didn't mean it. Family fights happen. You know how he is. Just get over it. No more excuses. No more minimizing. No more pretending blood is sacred when the person sharing it is not. Lena started sleeping with her door open. Not because she was afraid I'd leave, but because she didn't want to be alone with her thoughts. I'd find her wrapped in blankets on the couch some nights, as if changing rooms might change the memories. I tried to rebuild us quietly. Small routines, soft mornings, gentle reminders that the world wasn't entirely cruel. But the shadow of what happened lingered, a bruise beneath the skin of our everyday life. One evening, weeks later, she told me she didn't want him in her life ever again. Her voice was firm, stronger than before. Her eyes were clearer, steadier. "I don't want to hate him," she said, "but I don't want to know him either." And I realized she wasn't broken. She was changing, transforming. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just wound you, it reforges you. I told her I supported her choice, no matter what. And for the first time since that awful day, she exhaled in a way that sounded like release, not grief. We didn't get closure, we didn't get justice, we didn't get our money back, and we sure as hell didn't get an apology. What we got was clarity, cold, merciless clarity. Some people aren't family just because they share your blood. Some people are simply mistakes you were born into. Warnings dressed as relatives, lessons disguised as bonds. My brother didn't just steal $13,200. He didn't just slap my daughter. He didn't just reveal his cruelty. He showed us a truth we needed to see. That family is not determined by lineage. It's determined by loyalty, empathy, and love. And by that definition, he was never family at all. When betrayal comes from blood, it doesn't just hurt. It transforms you. It redraws the borders of your trust. It changes the shape of your heart. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do